Hello travelers, I'm Chris. Welcome to Lore Spire. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can build for such an absurdly high spell DC that you can defeat Deskari in one shot, that you can down Areelu in a single turn. Okay, and we're talking solo, not with a whole party. Alright, and we're also talking on unfair. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. There are timestamps so that you can skip around. And we are going to actually show our solo battle against Deskari and Areelu. Okay? And let's go ahead and check out that Deskari battle now. The Areelu battle will come at the end. Alright, so here we go. The battle begins. Deskari opens up with an attack. Then the Locust swarm attacks. It's our turn. Now, just right quick, we're going to go ahead and show that we are indeed on unfair difficulty. Okay, so the first thing we'll do here is use our Demonic Rage. That will add a total of 7 to our spell DC. And then we're going to use Overwhelming Spell, adding another 3 to our spell DC. And we're going to cast a heightened, persistent Phantasmal Killer. And that's all it takes. Deskari is down. Alright, so how did we one-shot Deskari in a solo battle on the first turn? Well, we did it with absurdly high spell DC. Okay, and first we'll go ahead and look at our buffs that we were using. And there's not really a whole lot you can do with buffs to get your spell DC up. Of course, our casting stat is Charisma, so Eagle's Splendor does help a bit with that. All right, but there's not really anything else here that's affecting our spell DC except for Demon Graph, which is very, very helpful. I highly recommend it as long as you're not actually trying to solo. If you are trying to solo, not a good idea, because whenever you drop below 20%, you're pretty much just going to auto lose the battle, at least as a caster. So yeah, Demon Graft, as long as you're not trying to solo, definitely a good idea. Anyways, and that's pretty much it for buffs. I just wanted to cover that and get those out of the way real quick in the beginning. Now, next we'll look at our casting stat, which is Charisma. Okay, I chose Charisma because, well, sorcerers are awesome. Overwhelming Mage is awesome. It gives us a lot of spell penetration, and it gives us some extra spell DC with the Overwhelming Spell ability. Okay, and of course, we can use Charisma for that. And as a half elf, we can actually get a +4 bonus or +2 bonus to our Charisma instead of a +1 bonus. That is, you can start off with up to 22 Charisma as a half elf. Okay, so that's one way to get a little bit of extra bonus on your casting stat. All right, you can see there we have +2 twice from our racial. Okay, and then we have a +6 Profane Ascension bonus, which you actually get that if you accept Nocticula's Gift at the end of Act 4. I definitely recommend that you do that. It's a very helpful bonus, and unless you're planning on going Legend, it doesn't really cost you anything. Okay, and then lastly, we have a Headband of Mental Perfection +6, giving us a +6 to all of our mental stats. And you can actually get that from the Love Beyond Death DLC that recently came out, and you can go get that item pretty much as soon as Act 5 starts. Not very hard to get. It takes about 10 minutes once you actually get down there to the area. There's actually a video on the channel about that DLC. I will link it in the description if you're interested. Okay, so that covers our casting stat and our buffs. Now let's go over here. And actually, we're going to look at our mythic path first because the main star of this show is right here, Expanded Arsenal Magic School, Illusion. And I would like to thank poopSMASH for turning me on to the fact that this will give you a much larger bonus than I had previously thought. Okay, previously I thought that you could only gain the bonuses from one school with one set of spell focus feats and mythic feat, but it actually stacks for each school that has those feats and mythic feats. So we can get up to a plus 12 bonus from this. Okay. So you don't have to choose illusion. I just find it to be the most effective school for expanded arsenal magic. All right. Yeah, that is the star of the show. Now let's go over here and look back at our class. And you're going to want to take spell focus, greater spell focus, in as many schools as you possibly can. Okay. Well, no more than four for sure. But really, I recommend three. Yeah, let's say that instead of as many as you possibly can in three different schools. I find conjuration to be extremely helpful early, which is why I chose that. And then abjuration starts getting effective in the mid game, and it's highly effective towards the end of the game. Most enemies that you cannot kill with an illusion spell, either weird or phantasmal killer, you can get rid of with either dismissal or banish from the abjuration school. So I find that to be a really helpful school to get. And then I chose enchantment here at the end, but really I think evocation, just so you can deal some damage if you need to, would be better. Uh, but yeah, whichever school you want to there. You just need the spell focus and greater spell focus in each of three schools. All right. And then, of course, you need the mythic spell focus in each one of those schools as well. Okay. And if you wanted to, you could take this and you could go with four schools here, and you even have enough mythic feats that you could do that. But spell penetration, especially on the higher difficulties, is extremely important, and it's not going to matter too much how high your spell DCs are if you cannot get past the enemy's spell resistance. Yeah, I do recommend actually tempering, and instead of maxing your DC absolutely as high as it can go, pick up the spell penetration, greater spell penetration, and mythic spell penetration feats. Okay, then lastly here we have Metamagic Persistent Spell and Metamagic Heightened Spell. These are not strictly necessary, but I do find them to be very helpful, and I would suggest getting them unless you're going for something very specific where you don't see that you will have any need for them. All right. So that covers all the feats and mythic feats that you need. As far as mythic abilities go, let's just touch on that right quick. There aren't really any mythic abilities that will help um, with your spell DC. So I suggest just picking up whatever will help with your class the most. Like in our case, we have Overwhelming Mage. So Abundant Casting, those line of mythic abilities, actually do inadvertently or indirectly, I should say, uh, help us with increasing our spell DCs because it does give us more spell slots to sacrifice to our overwhelming spell ability. Yeah, just take a look at that and decide what's best for those. And then the Undead Bloodline, if you do choose an Overwhelming Mage, which is what I'm showing here, then, or any type of sorcerer really, the Undead Bloodline is really, really good as a second bloodline because it will allow your mind affecting spells like illusions to affect undead. So very helpful in that respect. And then it will also allow, once you get to 20th level, it will allow your charisma stat to take over for your constitution stat. Okay, that's why I have so many hit points here despite being a caster and having no constitution. Also why I have such a high fortitude save despite being a caster. Yeah, definitely recommend that. All right. And then anyways, that's about it here for the mythic feats and abilities. Going back to our character page, excuse me, our class page here. Okay, so I took Overwhelming Mage, like I said before, to get the extra spell penetration. And then because Overwhelming Spell allows us to, once we have access to level 9 spells, add an additional 3 spell DC. But even whenever you gain access to level 3 spells at level 6, you can add an additional 1 DC. So, yeah, whenever we're building for high DC, Overwhelming Mage is definitely a really good choice. Okay, and the Arcane Bloodline as our primary bloodline is because the Arcane Bloodline Arcana does give any spell that's affected by a metamagic other than the heightened spell metamagic feat an additional +1 to DC. It also provides us with some very helpful spells like Dispel Magic, Break Enchantment, and Banishment. And then right here at level 15, it gives us the school power. And of course, I chose illusion. If you're going with a different school of magic, you can choose whichever one you want. But that's an extra 2 DC. So that's 2, potentially 3 extra DC from our arcane bloodline. Not to mention all of these extra helpful spells. And arcane apotheosis is just helpful for sure. Anyways, so that's just kind of what we're looking at here. You do not have to go with this class, of course. There are other classes and archetypes and whatnot that will help you increase your spell DCs. And if you prefer one of those, go with that. But I don't know. For me, in my mind, I kind of feel like Overwhelming Mage is the best one for the Wrath of the Righteous setting. Okay, now one last thing to look at here is the Demon. I chose the Demon Mythic Path because Demonic Rage will increase your spell DCs by up to 4 once you hit Mythic Rank 9. Okay, and then if you have Aspect of the Incubus at Mythic Rank 9, that's an additional 3 that you get to your spell DCs. Now, this is only while you're raging, of course. Just point that out. But that's still an additional 7 to spell DCs from the Demon Mythic Path. And then it also has various aspects that debuff your opponent's saving throws. Okay, so you can give them up to at Mythic Rank 9, up to a -3 to any one or all 3 of their saves if you are using the correct aspects, Succubus, Varrock, and Nabasu. Okay, so effectively, even though technically that's a debuff, not an increase to spell DC, you are effectively gaining 10 DC for all practical intents and purposes to your spells from the Demon Mythic Path. Very highly powerful. Now, this will work even with a different Mythic Path. If you don't like the Demon, if you don't want to play the Demon, whatever, you don't have to take the Demon. You can still get extremely high spell DC without being a demon. You'll just want to make sure that you have a cleric that can use Visions of Madness. You have a cleric with Visions of Madness, and you're debuffing their saves by 10 right there. That makes up for what you're gaining from being a demon. Hey everybody, I was just editing the video and realized that I left out 2 important pieces of information. So we're including those here. All right. First off, items. Quarterstaff of the War Mage. You can get this in the Ivory Sanctum, and it does add an additional +2 to your spell DCs. Okay, and this is from all of your spells. All right, it also gives you a +4 bonus to caster level checks made to overcome spell resistance, and it helps you out with use magic device checks as well. Anyways, it's really good. I definitely suggest that you get this. Okay, the other thing here is Robes of Determination, which forces the target to make a fortitude, or whenever the target makes a fortitude saving throw, the DC of that save is increased by 2. Okay, Phantasmal Killer and Weird both require them to make fortitude saving throws, so this helps with those spells, and of course there are a ton of other spells that it will help with. And it also helps you to overcome spell resistance and to make concentration checks. Anyways, I just wanted to point that out. I am confident that there are other items in this game that can also help with these things. So if you know what other items can add to your spell DC, include it down in the description to help everybody out so that we can all get the highest spell DCs possible. Okay, that's about it for that. The one last piece of information that I had was the actual spell DCs that we achieved with what we have shown so far in the video. Okay, and at our level 9 spells, or at least our level 9 illusion spells, are up to a 51 DC. Okay, and this does not include overwhelming spell or demonic rage or aspect of the incubus. So once you throw those on, you're looking at a 61 DC. All right, that's really good. Anyways, if we go down here even to our level 2 spells like create pit, we still have a 34 difficulty class. All right, which is pretty good for a level 2 spell. And if we do add all of the bonuses that we possibly can, that gets it up to a 44. So even a level 2 spell can be, effective against some enemies, even at the end of the game with a build like this. So, anyways, yeah, just wanted to show that. And now let's get to that Areelu battle like I promised. And so begins the battle between Areelu and Anora. All right, Areelu opens by teleporting next to Anora. And then Anura will use Demonic Rage, and with Aspect of the Coloxis activated, we can actually cast spells as a move action. So we're going to cast a Dispel Magic Greater on Areelu. And you can see here that we do dispel quite a few buffs from her, which is nice. Let's go ahead and show you that we are on the unfair setting. And then we'll go ahead and use the overwhelming spell buff to add an additional +3 to our spell DC. And we're going to cast Weird on Areelu. And that's it. She's down for the count. The point of all of this is not to say that, hey, with an overwhelming mage with the demon mythic path, you can solo the entire game on the unfair difficulty. No, that's just not going to work. Okay. The point of all of this is just to show you many of the different abilities, feats, mechanics, things that you can use and how they interact with one another so that you can build your own high spell DC characters. Remember, we had a 51 spell DC without any buffs from Overwhelming Mage or from the Demon Mythic Path. Okay? So this can still definitely work without having to do those two things. All right. So, anyways, let me know down in the comments section what you would do in order to increase the spell DCs even further. I'm sure that a lot of you have some great ideas, and I look forward to learning from y'all about that. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching the video and for showing support for Lore Spire. Okay, be sure to like and subscribe. We have a link to our Discord down in the description. Join us on Discord. We would love to have you. And we also have Lore Spire channel memberships that are available. You can get cool things like custom emojis, loyalty badges, recognition in the community, updates on builds that I'm trying and games that I'm playing, stuff of that nature. So if you want to take your support a step further, I would absolutely love that, and it would help us out a ton. We really appreciate it. Okay, so that's about it for this one. I'll see you all next time. This has been Chris with Lore Spire. Be well, my friends.